Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I'm Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst of friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Joining me on this episode is Dave McDonald. Dave, how you doing?
What's up, buddy? Yeah, doing good. Just ready to get into it today.
It's like 3 days in a row, man. Like
I know.
We don't see each other for a month, and now I can't get enough of you.
I was gonna, you know what's weird though? It doesn't even feel like 3 days. It feels like the same day, and it feels like I just talked to you like a couple minutes ago. It's weird.
You know what? When you're that connected to somebody, you just like it doesn't feel like we even took any time apart.
You know, I thought it might sound a little gay, but I'm glad you said it because I'm feeling the same thing, buddy. I'm feeling it.
You know it. You can reach Dave on Twitter at RunDMCD. Don't forget. You can reach me on Twitter at Mason FWFB. Reach Friends of Fantasy Benefits on Twitter at Fantasy Benefits. And give us those 5-star reviews, man. Really helps us out. And we will give away a free t-shirt out at the end of the month for someone for a random 5-star review you get. If you give it on Spotify, make sure you send me a screenshot of it. On iTunes, I'll just announce it, and hopefully you make sure you claim it. Make sure you don't like have me announce it and then not claim it. You know, you don't have to be present to win, but you do have to email me or text me or not text me, but DM me and let me know that you were the one who won it. So. Definitely keep those 5-star reviews coming out. They really, really help us. We're going to talk about some main event pickups from this last weekend. I know it's Wednesday, and so some of this stuff is a little bit old, but I think a lot of these guys are guys who weren't probably picked up in a lot of other leagues, shallower formats, so they're interesting to talk about. And we also want to talk about process, why people are picking these guys up and whether or not they've got long-term viability or if this was just, a quick stream. There are going to be a couple of these guys where it's like, hey, it was a quick stream and they're probably going to head back to the wire next week, and that's fine. But let's start with Royce Lewis, who was the big pickup, went for a lot of money in some leagues, including mine, went for like $255 in my main event. I wasn't in on the bidding. I put some kind of cursory bids in, but ultimately I knew I wasn't going to be able to afford him, especially the amount of money I've already spent. Were you in on Royce Lewis, and what are your thoughts on him rest of the way?
Well, much like with Andrew Abbott, I didn't have the ability to be that in on Royce Lewis, but I did pick him up in all of my Fantrax leagues, and I think I might have been too late to pick him up in Yahoo, but definitely am a big Royce Lewis guy. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably already know that. This is a former number 1 overall pick in the 2017 draft. He's a guy who has all the pedigree, all the talent. When I saw him last year, I know it was only like 40 at bats. He had 300 with 2 homers, whatever. It's a small sample. He just I don't know. He looks to me like he's going to be a superstar. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. We'll see. But I mean, 114 max EV. He hits the ball hard. He already had 2 homers before falling on his head a couple of days ago. And I think he'll be okay. It looked bad, but I think I don't even know if he'll miss any games, honestly. He might be back in the lineup on Tuesday. I sat him in places where I need to make a decision because I don't know for sure that he'll be back, but I do think that Royce Lewis is going to be a big-time impact hitter in the second half for those of you looking for some power. And he does have some speed. He used to have quite a bit of speed, but we didn't really – well, he had 2 steals in only 35 plate appearances in AAA this year. So I guess the speed probably is still there.
I think the question with Royce Lewis is, will the Twins let him run? Because the big issue with Royce Lewis has not been talent. I mean, the talent has been on display. I got to see him in, was it 2019 at Arizona Fall League? I think it was. And you could tell, dude was really, really talented. But what ended his Arizona Fall League was an injury. And he's just been injured nonstop throughout the minor leagues. If he can find a modicum of health, he can be an impact bat. But one of the reasons I didn't want to spend as much money on him as other people did was because I don't know that I trust him to stay healthy. Dude has just not been able to do it. He missed most of the season so far with injury. That's why he's coming up right now and not earlier on in the season when the Twins really could have used him because of all their other injuries. it's an organization that seems to be snake bitten in some regards.
Yeah, holy shit.
I think if you have to spend a large amount of FAAB to get him, it's a really, really risky proposition, because this is a guy that we've already seen. Like, he's already been hurt. He's only been up for a few games. He's already been hurt. I don't know that he's going to make the season. Plate appearance basis, I think he's going to be a really good player.
I mean, I hear that, obviously, as someone who takes injury risk into account more than most. I guess I don't see, if you were a basketball or a football player, I could see this injury impacting him a lot. But I think you're right. I think we need to keep our stolen base projections in check, because they probably, like with Buxton, they want to keep him healthy. They'd rather keep him healthy than let him run. Now, Buxton has run a little bit this year, but as a team, generally, the Twins just don't run very much. So even though projections have him for 8 or 9 steals the rest of the way, I'd probably go closer to like 5. But I do think that he has a lot more power than they're projecting him for. They have him for like 9 to 11. I think he can hit more than that. And he should be able to give you solid average, I would say, too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think he can be a pretty impact player rest of the way. Yeah. Just question is, how long is that rest of the way? This is, I mean, it's not like he's had like one, major injury. He's had multiple major injuries. And I do worry about that. So I wish him the best. I've got him on one of my Dynasty League teams where I'm really, really excited to have him. And so I'm hoping that he can continue to stay healthy and be productive. But, be also be a little careful about overspending on a guy like that. Justin Lawrence was the next most picked up guy in the main event. Do you think he's becoming the closer in Colorado, and do you care?
Yes and yes. I do think he's becoming the closer in Colorado. I am interested in him. Rob DiPietro beat us out on a tie bid in our main event. Oh. We both bid 18 on him, and so Rob won him because we were ahead of him in the standings. So that was a bummer. But congrats to Rob on that. But the thing is, like, he doesn't have great swing and miss stuff. The thing I do like is that he doesn't give up a ton of home runs. Like he's pretty much stifled home runs for the last couple of years in the minors and the majors. So being in Coors, that's obviously a big deal. I just don't know that he has like great stuff. I've heard people talk about how great his stuff he is, but a 9.4% swinging strike rate speaks otherwise to me. But I think he can have like a decent ERA. And I mean, they're a loyal team. So if they decide that he's their guy, they're going to stick with him. I feel like they're going away from Pierce Johnson. He's just blown too many. His ERA is like 6 or something now. And Daniel Bard's not pitching great, and it just doesn't seem like they're motivated to go back to him for whatever reason.
You there? I lost you for a second. Go ahead.
Oh, shit. What happened?
Okay, go. Just you said Daniel Bard's not pitching well.
Oh, I mean, I said more than that. So let's see. Yeah, so it doesn't feel like they're trying to go back to Daniel Bard anytime soon.
Yeah, I just don't know that I care that much. Like it's just a really, really bad situation. I also think that if the Rockies are smart, which that is a loaded statement because they've shown us not to be smart over the course of the last few seasons, they'll try to get Daniel Bard oh God, why am I blanking on the other dude's name who was just closing for them? Pierce Johnson back into the role so they can try to flip them at the deadline.
Maybe. I don't know.
But at the same time, like, how many games are they going to win, and what kind of ratios you're going to get from a reliever in Colorado in the meantime? So I mean, obviously, if you're desperate for saves, you'll take whatever you can get. But
outside of the A's are where I won't go no matter how desperate I get. I mean, they could win like legit 20 games this year.
Yeah, but I mean, I really just try to stay away from this kind of situation.
I mean, the Rockies are 26-35. It's not like they're not winning any games. Like that's not stay away because they're so bad.
They are bad though. They are really bad.
Okay, but I mean, like, that's not. I'm still gonna.
They've won games so far, but like, how many games do you project? Would you project them to?
I don't know, but I mean, like,
I project them to be one of the worst teams in the National League.
That's fine, but they're
if not the worst.
The A's are the only team that I literally don't care who closes for them because I will not roster them. On that point, now your other point, with the Coors, hurting your ratios and everything, totally understand that. That's fair. I'm just saying, yeah, if you're desperate for saves, you're desperate for saves.
I get that point. I mean, but this is also why I pay for saves. Like I don't want to rely. Yeah. So next guy on the list is Reese Olson. What are your thoughts on Reese Olson kind of rest away? Because he was a guy that people, like spent a fair amount of money on.
Really? Did they?
Yeah, I'll double check exactly how much, but yeah.
Wow. Okay. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Reese Olson because I didn't know who the fuck Reese Olson was before he got called up. So, like, I was like, okay, do I care about this guy? Looking into him, my first place that I go to is Nick Pollock. He breaks down, he broke down the start. He sounded like he was semi-bullish on him, like he thought he was pretty good. But, he faces Philly this week, which is fine. Even though Nick seemed to think that was a bad matchup, it's actually a good matchup. But then he gets
Philly's starting to get hot right now.
Yeah, I hear that. But then he has a 2-start next week, including Atlanta and the Twins. The Twins I'm not super scared of, but Atlanta, that's bad. Mm-hmm. I'm not using him in that. So it sucks that, like, right off the bat, you're sitting a guy for a 2-start, or potentially he's going to get blasted. So, after that, I think he gets Minnesota, then Texas, or maybe he's at Colorado. I don't know. Like, it's Detroit. They're not going to, like, wins are going to be tough to come by. I just don't know much about the guy. Like, I looked into him a little bit, in the minors. He was really struggling this year. He had a 6.38 ERA with a 1.75 whip. Like, that's not good. He had a 5.4 walk per 9 rate. He looked good in his first start, but I mean, how many times have we seen that and then they get blown up after that?
Yeah, he had a 12.5% walk rate in the minors this year. That's just not good. He's on a team that isn't very good, isn't going to win a lot of games. I guess people weren't as aggressive. There was just one kind of aggressive person. Someone spent $100 on him in the main, but the rest of the bids were, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s type thing. And a bunch of leagues, he ended up going for single digits. So, I don't know. I think he's kind of boring. I think if I was going to like spend my FAAB, I want to wait for a pitching prospect like Abbott coming up. So, or Gavin Williams later on in the season.
Yeah.
All right. Next guy on the list, Gary Sanchez, on his third team so far this season, but making an impact for San Diego right now. I picked him up in Tout Wars to replace Bo Naylor, who I had picked up to replace Danny Jansen. So that way I can stash Bo Naylor once he comes back to the majors. So now I've got Gary Sanchez on my Tout Wars team as my second catcher. I'm liking it so far. What are your thoughts on Gary Sanchez?
So what you're telling me is that Bo Naylor's coming up this week because you just dropped him.
No, I didn't drop him. I reserved him.
Okay.
Tout Wars has a weird rule where if you pick up a player, you have to start him that week. So if you stash someone, you're taking a 0, which I normally do not do except for at the All-Star break. I'll take a gamble on stashing a prospect that I think might be up because it's a short week. Yeah. But as my second catcher in a 15-team league, I was like, screw it. Like, I mean, there's, Riley Adams.
Yeah, what kind of production are you getting anyways?
Yeah, I think Nick Fortes was my backup or something like that. Okay. So, like, I really didn't care, like, that I took a 0 at my second catcher spot to kind of hold on to Naylor for when he comes back. Yeah, no, I mean, much like Eddie Rosario, Gary Sanchez is another guy I kind of buried. And I guess we should stop burying these guys at, like, age 30, 31. They have plenty of game left. But, I mean, yeah, he's already got 3 homers, I think, since coming up, which is kind of crazy. We kind of know who he is, though. I mean, like, he's got a lot of power,
but he's probably also going to hit 200. So right now he's hitting 250. Like his swinging strike rate is really low right now at 8%, whereas normally it's like 12, 13%. So we'll see if he can, he's making 79% contact rate, which is the highest of his career. Again, super small sample. So we'll see how it plays out, but he was absolutely worth adding. I mean, they're going to Colorado for 3 games this week. So, right off the bat, you're getting a good time to use him. So he kind of just came up, and I didn't even realize where he was. I was just like, oh, here's Gary Sanchez. All right, fair enough. So I think if you need a deep league catcher, he's a definite possibility.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing: like, if the Padres had another catcher that was worth like taking time away from Gary Sanchez, then I would be like, yeah, probably it's going to be like the Mets situation where once they get healthy, he's probably going back to being DFA'd or something. But they're running Austin Nola, who is terrible. Like, he is just not a good hitter at all. Luis Campusano has not lived up to the prospect pedigree that he once had. I think Gary Sanchez could stick, and this is a really good lineup. I know that they have struggled this year, but like at some point, like it comes together. And if Gary Sanchez is hitting anywhere near the middle of that lineup on a regular basis, and I think he was playing left field one day or something like that. Like, they're trying to get him in the lineup.
Maybe it was, unless it was like a late game replacement. He didn't start in left field. He's had he's been up for 7 games, and he started 6 of them, including 5 out of 6 he started at catcher. So yeah, they're giving him a major run. The fact that they already played him at DH once too tells you that they want to keep his bat in the lineup. So that's why I dropped a decent catcher. I dropped Connor Wong for him. I threw out a cheap bid for like $4 in Glarf, and I was like, well, if I get him, I get him, and I got him. So I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, I picked him up in a few leagues. So especially where most of my leagues I've been running with 2 pretty decent catchers, because that's been, one of my strategies for this year was to make sure I had 2 decent catchers. But in leagues where I didn't, Gary Sanchez was the dude that I picked up. So I've been kind of happy with the production. I've definitely been happy with the production thus far. All right, Bryan Woo. He came up not super impressive in that first start, but he was picked up in a lot of leagues. Are you interested in Bryan Woo?
Another guy I didn't even know existed before he came up. So yes, he did get absolutely murdered, but it was Texas. Texas murders everyone right now. So I actually saw it as an opportunity to buy low. The problem was I looked at their schedule, and they have 2 days off this week, so they didn't even need a 5th starter. So it seemed like likely that they were going to send him back down, and I didn't know how long Marco Gonzalez was even going to be out. So I didn't know when his next opportunity would come. And I think I looked ahead at their schedule, and it was not particularly good either. So I don't know if he's been sent down yet or if he's still up with the team, but
Marco Gonzalez got placed on the IL, so he's gone for a while.
Oh, I know he's on the IL, but I didn't know how long he'd be out for.
I believe it's a forearm strain, so it sounds like the rest of his career.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Well, yeah, if you could stash him for a week or two, because I don't know that he's going to get a start this week or even next week, but he's got some strikeout stuff. The walk rate was good in the minors. 12.8% swing strike rate against the Rangers ain't bad. So, it's a young prospect who came up straight from AA. The numbers look good, but AA converting to MLB is tough. So I don't know how good he's going to be. And it depends on how patient you are and how desperate you are.
Yeah, he's projected right now to start at the Angels. I don't think I want to mess with that.
I don't think he's going to get that, though. Did they say he's going to get that? Because I don't know why.
That's what Roster Resource has him down for right now.
Well, that's just Jason Martinez guessing, but
he's pretty good at guessing. So, but let's say he doesn't, then maybe he lines up for, or then he would line up for the beginning of next week, which would be Miami. Be home versus Miami, which would be a good opportunity. So either way, his start next week is the start I want. So if he gets a start this week, I would not want to start him. So I would not be playing him in the leagues where, I still have the opportunity to bench. But next week they've got their home for both of their series. Got a 3-game set versus Miami, and a 3-game set versus the White Sox. Starting them either start he gets.
Yeah, looks like Tuesday the 13th is probably when he slots in, I would guess.
Which would be great. That's home versus the Marlins. I'll take that. Yeah. Especially with potentially hurt Soler. Yeah.
But then he gets at Yankees and at Baltimore for his 2-step the following week. So, but yeah, I just don't know.
Baltimore doesn't scare me. At Yankees doesn't necessarily scare me either if Judge isn't in that lineup.
That's fair. Honestly, the other thing I was going to mention, people don't realize the Marlins have actually quietly been one of the best teams in baseball versus righties this year. So they're not exactly the pushover people think they are. Luis Ariz is hitting damn near 400. He crushes righties.
He's a weird cheat code.
It's absolutely crazy. It's just bonkers.
It's unreal.
It really is. But they've got Soler. They've got a solid lineup. Actually, people don't realize just how good Miami's offense is versus righties. So I don't know that that's the walk in the park that you think it is, but it might not be a bad matchup. I just don't know Bryan Woo enough. I literally hadn't heard of him until he got called up.
Yeah, he doesn't profile as a guy that is super, super interesting, to be quite honest. I didn't even put any bids on him. There were other guys that I was way more interested in FAAB this week. If I was
what about him do you not like? He's got a high K rate. His walk rate was really good this year, at least, and it was in 2022 in low A. Good home run per 9. It's just my thing is he's coming from AA. I don't even know how he would have done against AAA. He
profiles as a guy who does not have very good command, that he does have a good fastball, but his secondary pitches are mediocre at best. I haven't read what other people have said on him, but I wasn't overly impressed by him in his first start. And I know it was Texas, so we don't want to overrate 2 innings of work where he got shellacked, but
right.
I don't know. I think he's okay.
I don't know.
I'd rather play really good matchups, to be honest, and that's what I did this week. And we'll talk about Julio Teheran here in a second, but because that's what I ended up doing. But we'll get there. That's a little bit lower on the totem pole.
Agenda.
Speaking of guys trying to play matchup, Tommy Henry has a 2-start week against Detroit and Washington, I believe, was the setup for his. We talked about this yesterday. Washington is not a team that you want to stream against, especially a lefty. Now we're recording this prior to his first start. I'm going to predict by the time everybody hears this on Wednesday, we'll have seen the start, that he got lit the fuck up.
I think there's a high probability of that. Tommy Henry, and I know, I think he's coming off of a good start against fucking Colorado on the road, big deal.
Mm-hmm.
His K- walk rate is 5.4%. So not interested. His Sierra is 5.43. He's gonna get blown up, whether it's against Washington or slightly after that, but he's gonna get blown up.
Yeah, I think this was just a stream, trying to play matchups and people doing it, not realizing how good Washington is against left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
Washington has been a top 5 team versus left-handed pitching this year. I would not have done that. So, good luck. I pray for all those who tried that one. Josh Donaldson came back, had a big day. I put some bids in on Donaldson, didn't end up getting him anywhere, unfortunately. When he's playing, he can be a productive power bat. The question is, how long do we think he's going to play for? So, hey, what are your thoughts on Donaldson rest of the way?
I got a $3 share of him in Glarf. I just put in a bunch of bids on guys, and he was on the list. I've I don't really like him. He's striking out a shit ton, but I mean, that could improve. I mean, obviously he's a guy who, he has obviously talent, but he can't stay healthy. And, I don't know. I felt like he was worth a $3 bid. I think he's probably worth more than that even, but he's gonna sit, right? Like, he's not gonna play. If they have 7 games in a week, he's probably gonna play 5 at most. I don't know. I don't know what to expect playing time wise and all that stuff. We'll see. I think he was worth putting a few bucks down. Definitely not a big bid though. I don't have any faith in the guy staying healthy at this point in his career. I mean, he's 37 years old, so.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly where I was, and so I ended up missing out on it because there's always somebody who's willing to go a couple bucks more.
Yeah, so. There's always someone who's like, oh, it's Josh Donaldson, and it's like, okay, but that's not who he used to be.
Kutter Crawford was a big pickup. What are your thoughts on Crawford rest of the way?
Yeah, I like Kutter Crawford a lot, actually. Tony and I picked him up. I want to. I don't know. It was either the main or the tag or both. I don't remember, but we did pick him up this weekend. He's got great control. He doesn't walk a lot of guys, and I think he's got better stuff than people give him credit for too.
I agree.
I just feel like a lot of people downplay him, and I don't completely understand why. And I think he just needed a rotation spot. And Cora said this is not a spot start; like, he's actually sticking in the rotation. So I'm like, okay, let's go. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, Boston's finally doing what they should have done a while ago, which is move guys like Nick Pivetta and Corey Kluber out of the rotation and let some of these younger guys who have potential to be part of the next good Boston team, and let them kind of play. Boston is in last place in the division. Now, I know they're a 500 team, but like they're not competing in this division or for a playoff spot. Let these younger guys play a little bit and see what you got in them. I like it. I wish I picked him up in a few leagues. I've got him in some DCs, but unfortunately just didn't get him this week. Other guys took priority. So, but I do think he's going to be a viable guy rest there. I think there's going to be bumps because he is a little raw at times and makes some mistakes kind of on the heart of the plate. So, but ultimately I think he can, maybe be like a 3.7, 3.8 kind of ERA guy, which I think has value. And while Boston is the worst team in the division, they're still better than a lot of teams in the American League.
Absolutely. I mean, he's got an offense behind him. He can definitely win some games. So yeah, no, I thought he was one of the better pickups of the week, honestly.
Yeah. A guy that I picked up a bunch last week got picked up a bunch this week. And I was able to pick him up last week because prior to this week starting last week, I didn't have very many injuries. And so I was like, hey, I'll take $1 shot on Hayden Wesneski coming back up to the majors and figuring things out. He looked good after getting sent down to AAA. Obviously, Justin Steele going out with an injury has put him back in the rotation. What are your thoughts on Hayden Wesneski coming back?
My thoughts are I don't fucking know. I mean, nobody was higher on Hayden Wesneski than me coming into the season, and then obviously he just looked lost in the majors, and then he got sent down. He was only down for 2 starts, though. He threw 5 innings and then 4 innings, so I don't know what to expect from him. I certainly was not about to use him for his 2 start this week. They're saying it's a short-term thing for Steele. I find that hard to believe, considering it's a forearm injury for a pitcher. I have my doubts that that's a short-term thing, but I just don't know. There's a lot of question marks. I threw out modest bids on him, but he was behind a few other guys for me, honestly. And listen, this has the potential to, if he did figure something out, this could pay off big time. I totally understand why people, were going after him. So, I wish you guys luck. I don't know what to expect though.
I don't know what to expect either. And I think, even if Justin Steele doesn't come back anytime soon, like Wesneski's on thin ice. They've got Ben Brown, who's been really good in AAA, that they can bring up, or they'll just go to some random Joe if Wesneski struggles again the way he did in his first go around. I'm betting on the talent that we saw at the end of last season and in spring training. Nothing more. Like there's nothing much more in the profile that tells me he's going to turn around. I took the gamble, like I said, a week ago. So prior to this last weekend's FAAB. And so it was a much cheaper investment for me. I would not have paid the prices as other people paid to get him back. So it's a gamble, but I think one worth taking if he can show that he's the guy that we've seen previously from him. Julio Teheran, we'll throw Mike Mayers on this one as well. These were both 2-start streams. Mayers had looked really, really good, but only in like 13 and 2/3 innings. And 2 of those outings were relief outings. He's just been kind of transitioned from a relief role to a starting role. And Julio Teheran has looked, pretty decent since making his debut with the Brewers, and considering all their injuries, I think he's got a spot in their rotation at least for a while. Both had pretty good 2-start weeks. They both had their first start on Monday. Mayers did not go well. Teheran did go well. I picked up Teheran in a number of spots, largely because he was getting to face Oakland at the end of the week. So that was like, I've just had taken a gamble. I can get a cheap win. So the first start being good was a nice little bonus, but I don't think either of these guys are long-term plays. Do you?
No, I mean, I think you're fucking crazy for even messing with Julio Teheran. He's so bad, I could see the A's blowing him up. But hey,
he's so bad you won't pronounce his name right.
Teheran.
Yeah,
whatever. I don't even need to pronounce his name right. He sucks. I mean, like this guy. I mean, look at his list of Sierras. Like even like the last time he was relevant in 2019, he had a 5.11 Sierra, despite a 3.81 ERA. Like he's not good. K- walk rate always bad. It's still under 10% right now. His Sierra is 5.5. I mean, he's gonna get blown the fuck up. Hey, God bless though. You started him and he did well for you. I mean, and I started Mayers and he sucked. So I guess I was wrong, but I think Mayers is a much better pitcher than Teheran.
I do too. But here's the thing. Like I did first pitch Arizona panel a few years ago. I can't remember if it was the year you were there or not. But it was with Derek Carty and Michael Simeone. And what our panel was on was streaming pitchers. And what all three of us found in our research is the most important aspect of streaming a pitcher is the matchup. It's not the pitcher necessarily. Now, that doesn't mean you want to start garbage pitchers constantly because you're going to get blown up doing that. But you make calculated gambles on the matchups, and this was 2 good matchups. Teheran, he went 6 1/3, gave up 2 earned runs in the first one. Now he gets Oakland at the end of the week. I think sometimes you got to make that gamble.
I mean, hey, it worked for you. So who am I to say otherwise? Who did they play? Well, wait. They played the Reds. I don't think that's a good matchup.
A beaten up Reds team.
Well, yeah, but you didn't know that at the time. I mean, like Senzel and Fraley ended up sitting, but like,
Friedel was on the is on the IL. Right. Senzel banged up. Plus, I get Oakland at the end of the week.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, listen, it worked. I'm just saying, like, I wasn't looking at Cincy as a good matchup. I guess is the difference. At least against a righty. Against the lefty, yeah.
Hey, and sometimes you got to get lucky, and I got lucky.
Yeah, but like you said, they're not long-term holds or anything. They're just guys that you played because you needed someone to stream.
Absolutely. Anybody else you want to talk about that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, well, so I was curious, who did you pick up this week?
I mean, I've got 40 million teams. I picked up a lot of guys.
Well, who are the guys that you were like targeting on most of your teams that you could?
I targeted Liam Hendricks in a number of leagues. Only got him in TGFBI. I got a lot of Gary Sanchez, a lot of Julio Teheran, some Will Brennan, who he talked about in last or yesterday's episode.
Right.
I'm trying to bring up some of my other FAAB pickups. Oh, Jordan Walker. I spent a lot of money on Jordan Walker in Tout Wars. One, because I need power really, really badly, and no one will trade with me. Absolutely no one will trade with me. I offered Stephen Kwan to Jeff Zimmerman for a hurt Jorge Soler. That's how badly I need power right now.
I mean, I wouldn't have done that. I think Soler is a monster.
He never got back to me, so I don't know if he just forgot and the clock ran out or what.
That sounds like Jeff. He's just a dick. He's like, whatever.
So, I know he's busy on Sundays, and I think he may have just gone to bed and forgotten, and then the clock ran out. But
I mean, I like Jeff, but he's the kind of person who's just kind of like, I don't give a fuck.
He's usually pretty responsive with trades and stuff like that. I didn't spend a lot of money this week. I felt like, if you weren't going for Royce Lewis, there probably wasn't another big guy to spend on this week. Yeah, I mean, I put in bids on Royce Lewis. I just wasn't willing to spend that kind of money. I streamed Johan Oviedo because of his 2-start week, and he had a good first start.
Yep.
So that was pretty nice. Picked up Eddie Rosario in a league. Picked up Jerks and Profar in a league.
Okay. Colorado week, yeah.
Yeah, it's because he's got Colorado. I mentioned I picked up Nick Prado because my offense in Barf. Mentioned that yesterday. Not doing so well. Also picked up Brandon Belt, who has been extremely hot recently.
What? When was he hot?
He's been like the hottest player in baseball in like the last week or two.
Well, he definitely hasn't been, so that's not right.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Roster Resources him as 88th in the last 7 days. It's higher than I thought it would be, but I mean, Seager's been the best hitter in baseball the last week. What are you looking at? I mean, he hit a home run on the 4th, but like other than that, like nothing. I don't know what you're talking about.
Give me a second.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
Maybe it's I can't.
Are you looking at a different player?
No, he's gotten the last 30 days. Last 30 days, he's hitting 338, 484. Not a lot of power, but he's playing regularly in Toronto, and and I needed a CI. I spent a buck on him. Give me shit for picking up Brandon Belt.
The hottest hitter in baseball in the last week. He's not even close. Like what?
All right, I misspoke. Damn. Let's see. Anybody else I pick up? Like I said, Liam Hendricks. I got in TGFBI. Here's an interesting one. Anthony Volpe got dropped in a 15-team main event qualifier league.
Who was it by? Did you recognize the team that dropped him?
Let's see.
If it's hard to find, don't worry about it. I was just curious. I was curious if it's someone who knows what they're like.
It's not someone I recognize, but they dropped him for a $3 JP Crawford. Which I think is a huge mistake.
Oh yeah, I would not do that. There is a chance though that Volpe loses a spot, but dropping him for JP Crawford, that's weird.
And here's the thing: I didn't even need what Volpe does best, which is steal bases. I just felt like he was too good of a player to be just sitting on the waiver wire.
Well, what did you bet on him?
$50.
Okay.
Like I didn't like break the bank for him.
No, that's fine.
He's a guy like that. I lost Cedric Mullins in that league. I think I lost TJ Friedel in that league. And so I was worried a little bit about maybe coming back down to the pack in stolen bases. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take the gamble. It allows me to put put Michael Massey on my bench and use him as kind of in good matchups as opposed to in every day player at my MI. And this is a league where it's a main event qualifier league where it only matters if you finish first. Like the top prize, first place gets the main event league and second place gets nothing. So taking an upside gamble on Volpe. I've been a lot lower on him than a lot of people in the industry. And I think so far I've kind of proven to be right, but I also am not going to shy away from a gamble like that when he's free off the waiver wire.
Yeah, no, I 100%. Like there's guys that are full fades for me at the draft table that then later in the season when they become available and it's cheap for me to pick them up, that's a completely different animal.
Michael Harris was another one who I didn't pick him up, but I got outbid on him in an OC I was the runner-up bid by about $7 or something like that.
Okay.
I was not a believer in Michael Harris, at least at the price coming into the season. But when I'm picking him up off the waiver wire, like as my fifth outfielder, like I'll take the gamble there. So like,
absolutely.
I think people shouldn't be so stringent in there. Like, oh, I didn't like this guy, he sucks, and he sucked, but so there's no way I'd pick him up. Like, if he's the best player available, he's the best player available.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like, I think people get it in their head, and like even someone that they were right about, like they're like, oh yeah, I faded that guy for the right reasons, but like he could still be the best player available to pick up. Like you said, you need to look at it differently. You can't just be thinking like your drafting self. You know, you have to. It's a completely different situation now. Now you're not spending a third round pick on him. You're picking him up for $50. Like, okay, that's a different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? Who are some of the guys you picked up?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I did target Royce Lewis, but like I said, I didn't have the money to really put any aggressive bids on him. I narrowly missed out on him in my super. Gialdi put down a bid of $409, and he barely edged my $60 bid out. I was very close. He beat me by $340 bid. So, yeah, he the next highest bid after his 409 bid was I think like 98. So, granted, in this super league, and people might just be broke by this point, it's super aggressive. I mean, you really can't get anybody like legit for under like $200. And I'm not talking about just the big like starting pitchers either. I'm talking about pretty much anybody. I think like G1 Bay went for like $100. Like it's been the wild west out there. But
well, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Would you rather lose a guy by a few bucks, right? Like a big bid, or would you rather overspend on a guy by like $100?
It all depends on the guy. Like, is it a guy I really, really want?
Those are like the two worst feelings in.
Oh, they're terrible. But I mean, like, there's been times where I've bid big on a guy who should, like, by all accounts, should have gone for a lot more. In other leagues, they went for a lot more. But my league, for whatever reason, just didn't feel like bidding on him. It feels shitty, but it really shouldn't matter, right? Like if we bid the correct amount and we got him and he's the guy we wanted at that price, we shouldn't really care if we beat out the next team by 300. I mean, it sucks to look at it, but it's not like you would have been okay putting in a bid of like $100 for this guy, right? Like, so whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the right answer is spending $200 on Nick Allen when you meant to do Logan Allen. That's the correct answer.
That is the worst feeling. I wouldn't know because in like 20 years of playing fantasy, I've never done anything like that before. But
you've never done that? You've never
I have never made a mistake like that. Like
it was a first for me too. So,
dude, I mean, look, you're my boy and I love you, but there's really no excuse for that shit. I mean, he doesn't even play the same position.
I know.
His first name doesn't even start with the same letter.
In one's an offensive player, one's a pitcher. Like it's not even just the same position. It'd be one thing if like I picked up the wrong shortstop with last name Allen. Like
I mean, there were two guys named Logan Allen who both were in the majors last year. They're both Logan Allen, both Cleveland pitchers.
And it was funny because Vlad Sedler, friend of the show who's been on more than once.
Yes, sir.
He tweeted out earlier in the day of the Logan Allen bidding, make sure you bid on the right Logan Allen, and had a screenshot and then did the mistake.
But you didn't bid on Logan Allen. You bid on fucking Nick Allen. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, I don't
even know how that happens.
I mean, at least it was in Barf and not like in my main event, but like,
God.
It's hamstrung me because it's $200 that I wouldn't have won Logan Allen either way. So it's not like I missed out necessarily, but what I have missed out on is the guys who've come up like Yuri Perez and stuff like that I can't afford,
Right. Now, what everybody wants to know is, how's Nick Allen been doing for you? Did you hold him or
I dropped him this week?
You spent $200 on a guy and then dropped him the next week? No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, it wasn't the next week. It was a few weeks later, but I mean, I had to get some offense, so like that was my drop for Nick Prado.
Oh, Billy. I would have dropped him immediately. I was like,
I felt like I owed it to him to like to keep him around for a little while.
Oh God, no.
Maybe that's why I'm in 12th place.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, that might have something to do with it. Anyways, so yeah, Royce Lewis, couldn't afford him. My next biggest target actually was Michael Grove, who came back and looked really good when he came off the IL. I know he had 4 runs, but it was on 4 hits. He struck out 7. I think he had 1 walk. He's on a really good team. Like I said, I expect Julio Urias to be replacing Thor in the rotation. So I think Grove's got a spot there, and I picked him up where I could.
I like that. I like that a lot. I did not pick up Grove anywhere, but that actually may have been a mistake. So
Kutter Crawford, we talked about before. He was a guy that I liked and picked up in a couple places as well. Like you, I also picked up Gary Sanchez. Unfortunately, I went with Mayers instead of Teheran. So that was not a great call for me. I also ended up with Daniel Lynch in a couple places. I threw on a cheap bid on him.
I like that.
You know, he's a guy who was a mega prospect at one time, and he's got good stuff. And I was reading what Nick was writing about him, and he's like, the fastball and the slider can work together, and he liked what he saw out of him. I can't trust him yet, but I feel like I want to see how he looks over a couple starts, and if he puts it together, it could be a really good cheap pickup. So we'll see. And then the other one was the one I told you about in the main event. We needed an outfielder. We dropped Grossman because since Duran came back, he's going to be the starting left fielder for Texas. So Grossman's pretty much going to be relegated to probably mostly just playing versus lefties. So he was a nice pickup when we picked him up, but had to drop him. I picked up Will Benson for $1. I thought it was a really good sneaky pickup this week. It might be just for a week. We'll have to see how the playing time picks shakes out, but I liked his prospects of stealing, especially with Syndergaard on the schedule. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, Kutter and Grove were the 2 pitchers that I was targeting pretty much everywhere.
Nice. All right, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Dave, where can people find your work, and and where can people reach you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at RunDMcD. Add that D, and then you can also find my work on rotosource.com. I've got the pitching schedules on there, and I'm gonna get Jake to put the hitting schedules on there. I'm gonna annoy him tomorrow about that. So hopefully we can every week kind of go over the upcoming week and then the following week, and I can give you guys some hitters and pitchers to pick up who have some good upcoming schedules. So I think that probably would be useful information for you guys.
Yeah, I think that is the plan for right now. I like this format. Let us know what you think of our new format. Like, do you like the individual episodes that kind of cover one topic a day, or is there a topic that you would like us to cover? Something that
please tell us if there's something you guys want to hear.
Like, is there something in the fantasy on fantasy podcasts you're not hearing enough of and you want us to cover? Is there guests you want us to bring on? Hit us up, Dave on Twitter at RunDMCD, or me on Twitter at Mason FWFB. You can email me or the show, friendsfantasybenefits@gmail.com. Read my work on Fangraphs and Fantasy Pros, and I'm obviously on the Sleeper and the Bust as well. For Dave and myself, thanks for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.